Asalaamu Alaikum. Welcome to the first Deen One podcast. My name is Mu'tasim Ibrahim, and I will be your moderator for today's program, inshallah. Before we go into what we have planned, I just want to give a quick rundown of some points we'll be going over throughout this program. As we enter the new Islamic year, I think it's important to take some time out of our day to go over some history of what occurred during this month, the month of Muharram. More specifically, Ashura. Inshallah, we will be going over the historical context of Ashura, some lessons we can derive from it and how we could apply these lessons to our lives today, and lastly, some actions and rewards that are associated with Ashura. Before we get into the full swing of things, I just want to remind you guys, our listeners, to subscribe, like, comment, let us know how we're doing, what you guys want to hear in the future, inshallah. So let's get into our topic today with the first question. What is the importance of Muharram?
Muharram is one of the 4 sacred months in the Islamic calendar. From the others are Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Rajab. But this is a very important month historically in the Muslim history. Obviously, we will be observing Ashura coming up on the 10th day of Muharram, and we know the significance of this throughout history with the prophets. This was the day when Nuh alayhi salam was saved from the flood that destroyed his people, and this was the day when Musa alayhi salam escaped Fir'aun, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up the sea for him and his people. And obviously we also know about the events which happened, which resulted in the death of Hussein, the grandson of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But outside of all of these historical events, the greatest importance which we should take is that this month has directly been labeled as sacred by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Qur'an. And for that reason, we should use this time to focus on our ibadat, focus on our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, use this time to strengthen our iman, strengthen our aqidah, strengthen our taqwa, and really reflect on our own deen and our own connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair for that valuable insight. The day of Ashura is regarded in Islam as one of the blessed days. So can you just shed some light on some of the history and the historical context of the day of Ashura?
So the main reason that we as Muslims worry about Ashura is due to the actions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we all know about how when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, what happened was that there were Jews that were fasting for Ashura, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked why they were fasting, and he was told that they were fasting because of what happened to Musa alayhi salam that day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up the sea for him so he and his people could escape Fir'aun. And the reason that we fast is that Rasulullah actually told him or his Sahaba and to the Jews that we as Muslims, we have more right over Musa alayhi salam than the Jews do, because obviously Musa alayhi salam, he was not a Jew, he was sent down as a Muslim. He submitted to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He only came with the truth. He did not come with anything else. And that's actually why we as Muslims, we fast for 2 days, not just for the day of Ashura. And we know this was narrated in a hadith by Rasulullah that before he passed away, that if he were to live to see another Ashura, he would have fasted the day before it as well.
Jazakallah khair. We all know that Islam is unique because we could take lessons from the teachings of the Qur'an and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also, stories from the previous prophets as well. So what are some lessons and stories that we could derive from the previous 2 points that we discussed, and how could these lessons apply to our lives today?
So, mentioning the historical context, the lessons we can draw from these events that are applicable to us today are standing up for the haqq. No matter what happens, no matter where we are, no matter who we face, we should always remember to stand up for the haqq, for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is exactly what Hussein ibn Abi Talib did, which is exactly what Musa alayhi salam did. They went up against powerful oppressors. They went up against powerful tyrants. Yet they never folded. They remained steadfast. And this is the example that we should follow. These are the lessons we should take in. We should stand up for justice. When we see the Muslim world, when we see the Muslim Ummah today, we see that it is suffering We see that our Muslim brothers and sisters in Kashmir, they are suffering. We see that our Muslim brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Syria, in Burma, they are suffering. What would Hussein ibn Ali radiallahu anhu do right now? What would he do? He would obviously stand up for the haqq. He would stand up for the justice. This is what Islam teaches us. Islam has made it an obligation on us to stand up for the haqq. It is our obligation to relieve the people that are being oppressed. And we as Muslims need to do this, and we must follow the footsteps of the people that did it before us.
Do you have anything to add to that, Umar?
The greatest lesson that we can learn from the historical events that happen on Ashura and Muharram in our Muslim history is to have the tawakkul on Allah, that you rely on Allah for everything and you don't seek your rizq from anywhere else. And this can be seen so clearly in what happened to Musa alayhi salam, that the only way that he was able to escape the wrath of Fir'aun was by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that was seemingly impossible happened to him in order to save him. That sea split open itself. And regardless of we should learn from that regardless of what types of trials and tribulations we may face, whether there's something major or just some problems that we deal with in our day-to-day lives, the only place where we should seek refuge is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who has the will and the power to control everything. And so we should really work on strengthening our iman and our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this time, and look back at these examples and use them as an inspiration for us to learn how to develop that type of strength and relationship with Allah.
Lastly, I just want to mention something that we as Muslims take for granted sometimes, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always granting us opportunities to earn His pleasure. If we just take some time out of our day to realize these things, we find that it's always happening to us. For example, if we go to the masjid and they ask us for donations, that's one way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granting us an opportunity to earn His pleasure. So as the day of Ashura is descending upon us, what are some actions and rewards that are associated with Ashura, and how could we take advantage of these?
So of course, Muharram is a very blessed month, and Ashura is a very significant day for us as Muslims. Some rewards and key actions that I urge all the listeners to keep in mind, and to know that Allah Azza wa Jal will reward them for these actions. Keep in mind that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that after the month of Ramadan, fasting in the month of Muharram is the best month. So that is a very important thing we should try to remember, and we should try to fast as much as we can. Other than that, we should also remember that we need to stand up for the haqq. We need to stand up for the justice. We need to stand up against all the falsehood, against all the batil. This is an obligation on us, and standing up and struggling for the haqq, for the justice, struggling for this, as it was displayed by Hussein radiallahu anhu, we should follow it the same way. And indeed, especially in this month, and Allah Azza wa Jal will surely reward us, inshallah.
And we'll end off with that point. I just want to give a quick thank you to our guests for sharing these valuable reminders with us. And of course, to our listeners, thank you guys for being a part of our first podcast. Inshallah, there are many more to come. And as we leave, I just want to give a quick reminder to subscribe, like, and comment. And until next time, Asalaamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.